To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Hayner. Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Secreto is excused. Councilman Van Cleek.
Here.
Supervisor Quigg.
Not me. Susie, did you mute your mic? Volume's too high.
Good evening.
Turn the volume down.
Welcome. Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome. Welcome to the Town of Ulster Town Board Workshop for Thursday, May 4th, 2023. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No.
Are there public discussion on any agenda items? Ms. Bell, to the podium, please. We are going to have a full public hearing on the lighting. So your comments can be made at that time if you wish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Any other general comments on agenda items tonight? Thank you. Communications? I have one to read myself. So do you have any? Okay. In reference to the announcement that was made at the prior meeting in reference to the grade crossing improvement program being conducted by CSX Railroad impacting the Katrine Lane, Eastern Parkway, or the Old Neighborhood Road grade crossings in the town of Ulster next week. We have received a communication from CSX this afternoon that is basically saying they're not going to get to it next week and that they will be back to us sometime next week to give us a schedule as to when those grade crossings will be closed for improvement. Please watch the town's website as we will be putting up both announcements on the website and distribution via Facebook. And if that is, if you can't utilize those two means, please feel free to call the Highway Department's office for the schedule for the closings. Thank you. The first 4 items under new business are personnel related matters. Mr. Van Cleek.
Sure. We have 2 persons being hired for the parks, so we'll handle them together. They're both part-time seasonal help. One is Ryan Coffey and the other is Philip Joseph Burns. Yes, it is. I'll get it closer to me. Philip Joseph Burns and Ryan Coffey are both being hired as part-time seasonal help. They are not covered by health insurance. They are not union. Ryan Coffey and Philip Joseph Burns are being hired as fill-in park attendant or post-park. They will be called upon as needed. They will be paid $15 an hour, no benefits. I make a motion they be hired.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next one comes from the police department from Chief Kyle Berardi. Would like to recommend hiring Jaden Campos as a part-time police officer. Jaden is currently employed as a part-time dispatcher and is currently attending the Ulster County Law Enforcement Training Group Police Academy and is looking to further his law enforcement career. Jaden would be hired in a union position under PBA. The wages would be a part-time position not covered by health insurance. His wages would be $26.41 an hour. His start date would be 6/1 of 2023. This comes at the recommendation of Chief Berardi. I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And our final personnel issue for hiring is for the town clerk's office. The Susie Reevy is recommending Melanie Riker to be hired as a full-time deputy town clerk effective 5/8/2023 at the rate of pay of $17 an hour with full benefits. This is a non-union appointed position, and Melanie is here with us tonight. So
Would you
Make
raise
that
your
motion.
hand, Melanie? Nice to meet you.
I make that motion that she be hired.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
We have, yes. We have a submission of a letter of resignation from a Mr. James J. Bruno, who works in the building department, and his resignation is effective immediately.
May I have a
Make that
motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
No.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the presentation of a resolution abolishing the position of the administrative aide in the police department. There's no action to be taken on this tonight. The resolution will be considered at the next town board meeting. This is a reflection of the fact that Bonnie Simmons, our longtime administrative aide in the police department, has retired after, I believe, almost 30 years. She was the longest serving employee in the employ of the town, with the exception, I think, of Stephen Dockenhausen. So second longest. And I was not here when they gave her a party, so I want to wish her well, but we will be voting on this at the next meeting. The next item is a motion to purchase one 2023 Ford van from Van Bortle Ford for the water department under New York State OGS mini bid number 13127 in the amount not greater than $56,574.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a motion to authorize the police chief to sign the online auction contract with Auctions International for the disposal of surplus vehicles.
I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a presentation. This is the annual update report for the finances of the town of Ulster, filed with the New York State Controller's Office in compliance with the requirement to be filed by April 30th for the year ending December 31st, 2022. This is a presentation. The report has been or will be uploaded to our town's website. So if you're interested in seeing how the town performed financially in 2022, it will be there, and we will be considering it for adoption at the next meeting. That brings us to an issue here. We are going to ask our building inspector, Mr. Warren Tutt, to make a presentation and inform the board of the current status and situation of the roadway in property 237, 239 Forest Hill Drive in Kingston, section block and lot 48.133.-15.100. Mr. Tutt?
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I will give you a brief synopsis of what has happened in the past week. On or about April 27th, the roadway in was issued a notice of violation from the DEC for a failure of their on-site wastewater management treatment facility. On April 28th, the county executive basically required that all residents of the roadway inn that were placed there by DSS be removed from that facility due to this violation. On May 1st, which would be Monday of this week, I was contacted by the representatives of the health department about what the town's action would be. At this point, due to the fact that they have a failed, treatment system. The treatment system rises to the level of all of the buildings on the property are now in violation. In the past, it has been minor details for a room or another room that gets corrected, in a timely fashion. This one here rises to the level that every single facility attached to that is now in a violation. When I indicated that I was ready to red tag the building, they asked me what time frame that involves for the evacuation. I said, according to, state code, it could be as little as 24 hours. At which point I was requested that it would take the county longer than that. Okay, to move the people to a new location that they had placed there through DSS. When I asked them what time frame they were looking for, they indicated 2 weeks. So I granted them, a period of time to relocate, at which point, once that has been accomplished, unless the roadway has corrected this violation, which I have spoken to engineer of record, and he indicates that it's not an easy repair. It may take some time. So if they do not correct this to the satisfaction of both the Department of Health and the DEC, then I will subsequently be closing the entire facility, which includes the restaurant. I might remind the board that the regulation of wastewater management or septic systems is out of the purview of my department. Okay, those are regulated by the health department, and in this case, also the DEC. When I was informed of the situation that was happening there, while I'm on the site, my first phone calls were to Department of Health and to the DEC. They both responded. I sent them photos. It became, their situation. This was on or around first or second week of March. March 21st, the representative from the DEC made a site visit. Consequently, he wrote up his violations and issued the order on April 27th, as I said. So currently, that is where we stand with regards to this parcel. Questions?
So without remedy, you will be issuing the red tag 2 weeks from Monday, previous Monday?
That's yes,
So
that is
it'd be
that is my
14th
plan.
or 15th, whatever day
That
that.
is my plan. Should probably be the 15th,
Okay, so
Monday the 15th. I don't call it a red tag. I call order of violation.
order of violation.
Notice of violation, order of remedy.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
currently that's where the plan stands.
Ms. Hayner, any questions?
No.
Okay, Mr. Iapoce, are you here? Hi, please identify yourself for the attendance here. Mike, can you come up to the microphone?
Good evening. My name is Mike Iapoce. I'm the Commissioner for the Ulster County Department of Social Services, and I'm here this evening based on an invitation that Supervisor Quigley extended to the County Executive's Office, who asked me to appear on behalf of their office.
We also have Joanne Contreras, Deputy County Executive in the back, also attending on behalf of the County Executive's Office. So, Mr. Iapoce, based upon Mr. Tutt's report to the board, do you believe you are going to have a problem? Because I am concerned about the occupancy of the facility, but I'm also concerned about how you're going to handle the residents that will be displaced. Based upon what Mr. Tutt has said, do you believe the town is giving you sufficient time to complete your relocation?
I'm appreciative of being able to be here this evening and even respond to that question. And I'm very appreciative that the town and yourself, Supervisor, and the building inspector and the board are all concerned. I can report out to you that when County Executive Metzger arrived at the directive to discontinue placing emergency homeless clients at the roadway, which was communicated to me on last Friday, which I believe was April 28th, we immediately stopped making new placements. At that point, we were occupying 30 of the 68 rooms at the roadway. So far this week, we've been able to relocate clients that were occupying 6 of those rooms. So we're down to occupying 24 rooms. Of those 24 rooms, 16 of those rooms are occupied by single individuals who are emergency homeless, and 8 of the rooms are occupied by families. We're basically working very diligently around the clock to relocate them to other placements. The priority with the families is to relocate them to other placements in Ulster County because most of those families have school-age children that are attending schools. So we don't want to place them out of the county because of the transportation impact. With respect to the singles that remain there, we may have to place them out of the county. And while this is creating potential hardships and impacts for those individuals, clearly this decision has been arrived at to not continue to have emergency homeless clients there. We will do our level best and are continuing again to work around the clock to accomplish this. There are also, my understanding, 7 other rooms that are occupied at the roadway by private guests. So we don't want to overlook those individuals because the county and the town is concerned about their well-being as well. And in the event of a red tag, they would also have to vacate the premises. I don't know if the red tag action would then create 7 more groups of emergency homeless clients for ours that are not counted as ours. So we will do everything we can. May traditionally is an extremely challenging month in the emergency homeless environment because there's a lot of tourism and a lot of graduations. So even if we begin to try to place in other counties, we're going to be facing some challenges, but we are doing our best. As much time as we can arrive at being able to have would be greatly appreciated. And we can also remain in communication with the town regarding the progress that we're making.
I would ask that you continue to confer with Mr. Tutt, the building inspector, continue to provide him the statistics that you're talking about as to how many rooms you have left and what the position is, and we will react accordingly. Ms. Contreras, is there anything you wish to add? Okay, and the second thing that I think the board should consider is asking Mr. Tutt to visit the property to advise them of the town's sensitivity to this matter so that they are not. Okay, okay. You want to finish up, Mr. Iapoce?
Sure. No, I had only one additional concern that perhaps the ownership management should be notified about what's potentially imminently going to be happening so that they can also notify the private guests that are residing there now ahead of time. So they have as much notice as possible. And I'll work with Building Inspector Tutt to make sure that we're communicating all the developments.
Okay. Mr. Tutt?
So I put you brought up a valid point. I will be contacting tomorrow, first thing, the owner of the site to inform him of the imminent May 15th closure of the facility. Now, I might also address that in the event that county does manage to vacate earlier, we may tag it earlier. But in the interest of giving everybody the chance, I don't want to overburden county. So I think I will pick the 15th as a drop dead date. And I will talk to the owner and say, as of May 15th, this facility is closed. I will also approach the restaurant to inform them of the same.
Okay.
So
I just want to make this statement and the fact that the issue here that the town is making an administrative decision on is based upon the fact that the failure of the sewer system affects the entire project, all the buildings. Prior violations up to now had not impacted the entire facility. They were easily correctable. I just want to remind everybody, this situation is correctable. It's correctable at a large capital expense and probably in a time period that is not soon. It's rather later. So we might expect that the owners will correct the situation, attempt to reopen, at which point we will ask them to come to the town's planning board for a review of the project.
absolutely. And just so everybody knows, they will not be opening until both county and the DEC and myself are satisfied with the corrections. I do rely on county and the DEC when it comes to all the facilities outdoors to be corrected, but I can deal with everything else. So
When you talk about the county, you're talking specifically about the county health
county
department
health department,
as it relates to their role of the oversight agent for the water and sewer systems on the project.
correct.
Go ahead.
I just want to make it clear what you said, was that in late March, was it that you notified the different departments about your observation of a problem with the septic system?
Early March.
Early March. So this is not a this Monday morning surprise to the health department or the property owner or the DEC. So attempts to remedy could have been done sooner.
It is not a surprise to the county health department or the DEC.
Mhm.
May very well be a surprise to the owner. But county health department and DEC were aware of this during their visits in early March. At which point, they made their determinations, but DEC has to file their proper paperwork to come up with the notice of violation, which is typically within a month, which is what happens. So as of April 27th, everybody was put on notice, including my department.
Correct. So I understand. So it's this, but just be one real, this is not a problem that just happened on Monday.
Nope.
And why this is a concern to me is that it's up on a hill, and as the old term goes, that kind of stuff goes downhill, and there are people downhill.
Mhm.
So if we could, you've been very good about this. We're very serious about this. Has to be remedied. We want to be understanding for the people, the residents that are in a hardship. But it's not right to put those residents in those conditions, and it's not right to ask the other residents to have to put up with what comes down the hill.
I
So
will
I
add
know
that-
you know that.
I will add that at tomorrow's meeting with the owner, that he is done allowing anyone else in. So he is now static with whoever he has. The number goes down, not up.
He may try to pull saying you haven't, because you're giving him till the 15th to get somebody new come in for a couple of days. So
He
We gotta
can,
make
but
that
I'm gonna
clear.
make it abundantly clear that, yeah, you want somebody to come in, they're gone on the 15th. So I don't want to hear that I just signed a long term or whatever with this person. I told you when you were closing.
my only concern is that adds to the stuff going down the hill. Nobody just stays in a room, they use the room. So,
I understand.
okay, thank you.
I will strongly.
trust and I know
I
you're
will
on it.
strongly suggest that nobody else goes.
Good, there you go.
Ms. Hayner, any questions?
No.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tutt. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. While I was away, it came to my attention that there were some activities taking place in East Kingston. Some of the residents were upset over observing surveyors and the like going through the properties, and they were unclear as to what was going on. So I've asked tonight for representatives of Scenic Hudson to come and give an update. I also was contacted this afternoon by a representative of the Palisades Park Authority, who's also here tonight to answer any questions from the residents. Scenic Hudson, you're up first.
On this, please, is this public discussion or is this just a presentation?
Well, I'm going to ask them to make a presentation, and then if we have questions, we'll ask.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Abdiel Lopez Torres. I work with, I'm a I'm a senior project manager with Scenic Hudson. We in late December 2022, we acquired the former Brigham Brickyard, or also known as the former Plotkin property in East Kingston. It's been a long-standing conservation priority for Scenic Hudson. We are grateful that we were able to secure the property for the benefit of the community. And since then, and for us to be able to open the property to the public once we open it, since then we've been surveying the property up until March, late March. Our surveyors had been identifying the boundaries, and several encroachments have been found. We will be not contacting specific neighbors directly. It came to our attention that several neighbors were concerned about surveyors being around East Kingston. We did some researching about that because it didn't coincide with the timing of our survey of the property we recently acquired. And we found that there were surveyors for state parks, for PIPC, doing some planning for the Sojourner Truth State Park. Have a colleague from Parks here that could explain a little bit more about that. But it didn't had to do with the property we just recently purchased. Again, we will make this property an asset for the community and accessible for the community once we open it. It has been a longstanding priority for us because it possesses valuable wildlife habitat, and also an extensive shoreline increases access to the public to the river, which is our jewel here. Also, while we're at it, Scenic Hudson wants to have great relationships with our neighbors. So we are amicably wanting to resolve any issues that may arise. And on another note, which is a celebratory one, this coming Saturday, May 6th, you're all cordially invited to the Spring Fest at Sojourner Truth State Park. Is hosted by Scenic Hudson. Sojourner Truth State Park is a state park, but we are collaboratively managing the park with them. From 12 to 4, there will be many activities for the family, including live music, food vendors, activities for families, and all of those fun things. If there are any questions that you have that I may be able to answer.
I'd like to ask the representative from the Palisades Park, because that information that the surveyors that were questioned last week were related to the Palisades Park activities, to come forward so that he can give a brief update to the residents as to what they're doing, so you people can understand what's going on.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Humphrey. I'm the park manager for Minnewaska State Park Preserve. The regional director wanted to be here tonight, but he was unable to attend, and he asked me to step in. His name's Joshua Laird. He's the executive director for the Palisades Interstate Park Commission. We currently have a great partnership with Scenic Hudson, working to develop the facility there. There's a massive capital campaign, hopefully to come, maybe with some bond money, that's yet to be seen. But we're in the initial stages of design work presently on this project. I want to apologize for anybody that was spooked by any surveyors that may have been in their property. The survey, I was able to connect with the surveyor this afternoon. He was one of the supervisors, not the gentleman that was in the field. They're out in the field doing their due diligence to locate various boundaries, I believe, for First Avenue and North Street. And in order to do that, some of these records are over 100 years old. Surveyors need to go onto private property at times to find adjacent park boundaries whenever they do go to do that, they try to attempt to make contact with the local residents. You know, they tell me they knock on the door, and if nobody's home and they don't get a response, they do leave a card there. They shouldn't be negatively impacting anybody's private property. If they do find a pin that's in the field, this is the information that they need to be able to triangulate to the actual boundary that they're working on. So hopefully that explains the survey work that's happening there. You know, our goal is to minimize any negative impacts to the local community there. You know, hopefully there's going to be a new park entrance that comes off of Route 32 that would minimize, you know, any increased traffic flow going to the facility once it was developed. You know, our goal is always to protect and preserve the lands under our stewardship. And, you know, we want to, you know, develop it with new trails and new recreational opportunities and have, you know, cultural events that could be possible for the communities to enjoy and all local residents. There's been extensive outreach and public communication. We look forward to working with the supervisor and the board and the local community here on continuing to gain information from the local community for what everybody is interested in. You know, we're just getting started on the design phase now. I'd also like to extend that invitation to the event at Scenic Hudson this Saturday from 12 to 4. There will be some representatives from the consultant firms that we're presently working with there. They'll have some poster boards from some initial preliminary ideas. And, you know, they're really looking to engage with people one-on-one from the local community and visitors there to try to get feedback from everybody. So we can create, you know, the best facility for everybody for the future here.
Mr. Humphries, if I could ask you and Mr. Lopez to hang around for a few minutes after the meeting so that the residents can talk to you directly. Sure. And we'll just move on to our next item unless the town board has any questions for the individuals that have spoken. Mr. Van Cleek?
Yes, the concern of some of the residents stemmed from historical problems with other industry and activities down there where properties were being surveyed and then people were being tried to be bought out. I just would ask that when you speak to whoever it is within the Park Commission, not only is park and wildland important, but someone's home is important. And though it may seem not valuable to whoever wants to buy it, it's valuable to whoever lives in that piece of property. And several people in East Kingston felt threatened by what appeared to be a secretive survey being done on their property. And it's not the first time it's ever happened down there. So I would ask you to be extra sensitive to those people whose families have grown up there or they are current property owners. That is their property and their homes. And so if you could just please get that back, that the way that was handled didn't seem appropriate because some of the stories we got back, and we're all hearing stories.
Right.
Were not consistent with what you were told. So if you could we want those people respected. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. And there's no development plan by wherever any of that
Okay, we
survey.
got that on the record then. Good.
For the community's benefit, when the parkland was acquired by Scenic Hudson, the parcels came off the tax roll. Under New York State law, the Palisades Park Authority pays taxes on the park properties that are listed in the state statute. That state statute was written well before Sojourner Truth Park was established. I received an email this afternoon informing me that the authority for the Palisades Park Authority to pay taxes, real property taxes, in the upcoming budget year for the state of New York has been approved for 1 year in the budget. So the town and particularly the East Kingston Fire District will be receiving revenues from the real property that is located in East Kingston. Additionally, in conversations I have had with Seth McKee, director of Scenic Hudson, he has heard the town's complaints over the economic damage that their acquisition of so much land in the East Kingston hamlet has done to the East Kingston Fire District, that Scenic Hudson is making a provision in the budget for Scenic Hudson starting in July 1st for paying some type of compensation to the East Kingston Fire District for the parcels that they own. That is 1 year, and that's a 1 year obligation only. but we are working at the town level diligently to minimize the economic impacts of taking these parcels off the tax roll. That being said, I'll move on to, I'm going to finish up the agenda because it is quite brief after this, and then move to the public hearing. The next item is a town board discussion on a presentation by David Church, the town consulting planner, on a review of the municipal legislation involving trees. Several meetings ago, we were approached by a resident who had read into the record the Woodstock town law relating to cutting of trees, as well as requesting the town board to give consideration to making a legislative ruling on this matter. I asked Mr. Church to review the status of the laws in the various communities in the Hudson Valley and make a report to the board as to what is out there in the other municipalities and how we would work towards putting some type of legislation in place in the town of Ulster impacting trees. So the town board, any questions? I would like to get consent that we would take and bring Mr. Church here at a future meeting, and we would disseminate Mr. Church's materials on the town website well in advance of the meeting for the public to review as soon as possible. So may I have a motion authorizing that?
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's what we're going to do. The next item under old business. The town clerk opened the bid for the materials for the Spring Lake Phase 2 sewer project last week, and we wish to award the materials called for bid under contract number TU-231M, low pressure pump stations, force mains, and appurtenances for the Spring Lake Sewer District. May I have a motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next two items are merely presentations to the town board of items that will impact summer camp. We make a presentation of a revised concussion policy, and we're making a presentation of a sexual abuse and misconduct prevention policy. These two policies will be considered by the town board at the next meeting. And since Mr. Secreto is not here tonight to lead the discussion in summer camp, I will ask Ms. Reevy, is there anything you wish to inform us on about summer camp?
Within 2 weeks, we will open up registration for non.
Okay. So with that being said, there's no actions that we will be taking on these matters tonight. We were scheduled for 7:10 for a public hearing on the local law number of blank of 2023, a local law regulating outdoor lighting. This came to the floor of the town board as a result of complaints relating to video cameras from neighboring properties infringing on the rights of their neighbors. And Mr. Kovacs, could you come forward just to quickly explain how we are attacking the overall problem?
Thank you, Supervisor. As you stated, this law is the result of some complaints from citizens in the town of Ulster regarding excessive lighting, cameras, basically light trespass. And I reviewed our town code. Right now, our town code does not have anything in there regarding light trespass or light privacy or protection of citizens' privacy. So this is the first step towards creating in our town code some provisions regulating outdoor lighting, particularly light that travels from one property to another, and focuses lights on going downward instead of outward. In addition, this for the first time defines light trespass under a town law and regulates it and makes it a violation. This is the first step. We're still looking into the issue of cameras. I've talked to other municipal attorneys, and we're not quite 100% certain that we can do some sort of regulation of cameras due to constitutional issues, First Amendment issues, but we're still looking into it. I think this local law is a first step in that direction.
And this local law would be applicable to all property owners within 30 days of notice, if they are offensive.
There is a grandfather provision under the law, but still those properties would have 30 to 60 days to comply with this law.
Okay, thank you. Then may I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I make that motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion, the public hearing is now open. Please come to the podium, state your name. Ms. Bell, I'm going to recognize you as the first speaker.
My name is Cynthia Bell. I live in Ruby and my comments will be less than 3 minutes. I live next to the firehouse and would first like to express my appreciation and admiration for the volunteers who give so generously of their time to make sure our community is safe and that there is the quickest possible response when one of our neighbors or ourselves is in trouble. That said, I don't understand why there needs to be 3 street lights and several door lights, as well as a lighted digital sign going all night, every night. None of these lights are hooded, and I don't see why it is necessary to see the tops of trees as well. The newest street light illuminates the most distant section of the firehouse parking lot and back lawn closest to my home. There seems to be no particular purpose to this other than to provide security for the various personal recreational vehicles often parked there. It seems like a tremendous waste of resources and shines right in our bedroom window. We've had to buy wooden blinds there in order to be able to sleep. The Ruby Rond Gun Club across the street also had 7 lights burning all night, every night. When I asked if they might reduce that number, they very kindly and promptly acted to respect the request. Those lights have been coming back on again lately, though, and we're back to 5 or 6. These organizations were here before we moved in 40 years ago, and we were happy to have them as neighbors. We've also tried to be good neighbors to them, but the 24/7 lighting has increased over the years to an unnatural and Our request is that there might be some encouragement from the town government to respect the rural nature of our town and the people who enjoy living there because of its rural nature. These factors are certainly affecting the wildlife in our community, especially the birds. We also enjoy seeing the stars at night, and it has become difficult to make them out. We have more nighttime light than someone living next to a convenience store without the convenience. Hooded lighting would be a great improvement, and a conscious as well as a considered use of electric would be much appreciated. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. And I have a photograph.
Do you have a copy of your written remarks from Ms. Reed? Thank you. Any other? Mr. Obajeski?
Good evening, Supervisor Quigley, members of the town board. My name is Regis Obajeski, 170 Ledge Road, Town of Ulster. Before I get into these remarks, I just want to say that I find the previous remarks by our town attorney to be disappointing. I think these are 2 separate issues, lighting and camera surveillance. And we were hoping that this would be a prelude to a camera surveillance law in our town. I'd ask you to reconsider, any decision to not go there, because cameras. Down. That better? Talk in it. Don't move your head. Who's telling me this? You could have told me at home tonight. All right, thank you. Where the heck was I? Okay. I think they're 2 separate issues, camera surveillance and outdoor lighting. You can have camera surveillance going on in the daytime. Has nothing to do with outdoor lighting, which happens at the nighttime.
So they are two separate issues, or you can have surveillance cameras that take pictures without the need of light 24 hours a day. There are a lot of sophistication that goes on with cameras. So I'd ask you to reconsider that. My statements, my written statements are a little boring. And so what I'll do is I'll skip over the section this and letter that. I just want to say that we're very pleased, the town of Ulster citizens.org, very pleased that we would have a uniform law for outdoor lighting. That's great. We think that a uniform law, the way it's written right here, doesn't necessarily work in all cases. The very first standard is, I think, really excellent. All lights shall be shielded in such a way as to direct all light toward the earth's surface and away from reflective surfaces in such a manner as to direct incident rays from trespassing onto adjacent properties. This language protects both the night sky and immediate neighbors from light pollution as much as possible. My other comments really have to do with, a little bit about standards, the definition of terms and grandfathering especially. I think the definition of terms really need some work. They're a bit arcane. Foot candle and lumen lumen has become a little bit more standard, I think, in normal parlance, but foot candle is not. So I think and by the way, foot candle is not written in the definitions. And I just think that ought to be added. And I also am going to recommend that as a clarifying point to point to the relationship between watts and lumens, just like when you buy a bulb. It's an LED, and it gives you an idea that here's what a 60-watt bulb does. Here's what this bulb that has 20 watts. This is what that does. So I think to do that, and I made some suggestions there. I'm going to suggest that we eliminate, or you eliminate, grandfathered luminaires. Luminaires are the light fixtures, bulbs, that which we hang on our houses or places of business. To admit instead of stating the code and compliance period of promulgation, which is good. Grandfathering, we believe, is the surest way for compliance to be lost in the sauce of inspection, because it allows double standards impossible to track within a year or two. So just do it. Is our suggestion. Just do it. Forget about the grandfathering. Just do it and have timeframes. I would say 30 days for residential and 90 days for commercial, but whatever you think is workable. Light intensity. Get into that. Light trespass. I think the definition there is a bit amorphous. It's a little bit weak. But also the term itself is not even used in the section regulation of outdoor lighting. So we really need to know what is light trespass. Light trespass includes glare, and this is what the county has in their definition of light trespass. Includes glare from direct light as well as unwanted spill light. So anything that comes across your fence. Also, please consider adding to this section, to these sections, light trespass on adjacent residential properties may not be greater than 0.5 foot candle or 1 foot candle for non-residential properties. These levels of light trespass will be considered violations, and I think that is language that really needs to be added to this law. There's a formula by which a commercial enterprise or a residence has to comply with, and I won't get into it because it's one of those things that'll be like light glare to you. if you haven't read it and taken a look at it. What I want to say is that it doesn't work in all cases. I know where the application is supposed to work in all cases, whether that's commercial or residential. It doesn't work with attached housing such as townhouses in Fox Run. It doesn't work. MAP generally doesn't work. And so I'd ask you to review that, and I pointed out how I think that that it can work and it currently doesn't. And again, please eliminate grandfathering of non-conforming luminaries for reasons described earlier. Again, with attached housing such as townhouses, this law defines grandfathering of non-conforming luminaries in such a way that a luminaire light fixture currently mounted above 6 feet would be required to be lowered within 30 days of notice. So if you're going to say that, just forget about the grandfathering and then explain what the grandfathering won't do for you. So just forget about the grandfathering. We appreciate having new outdoor lighting law and also your consideration of our observations and suggestions. And as I'll finish with, please reconsider camera surveillance law in the town. This is a good start, but it doesn't cover it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals here, Ms. Rania?
Hello, I'm Josephine Reyna from East Kingston. I have a few questions. I spoke to Mr. Dibble, who was with, let's see, the Labella Association survey in East Kingston.
Okay, this is a comment period on the lighting law.
Oh,
You have comments in reference to scenic Hudson. We can handle that after we finish this public hearing.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And that's okay. Any other comments on the lighting law? All those in favor? Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, we will keep the public record open for 30 days. So if you have comments that you are bashful in giving, please feel free to send us it in writing. We will take that into consideration when reviewing modifications to the proposed law. With that being said, I would ask for a motion to refer this law to the Ulster County Planning Department for review.
I make that motion.
Any conversation, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Now we will get to the point in the meeting. We will take general comments on any topic that any individuals wish to offer. Ms. Rihanna, you can have the podium again.
Okay, so hello again. I spoke to Dave Dibble, who was with the LaBelle Association, and they're a supplemental surveying company for James Corner Field Operations Main Corporation for the state. And I asked him questions about, there's no permitting to do this. We got no notification. So I said, why is that? And he said, they don't have to notify us to come on our property because what they're using is the New York State right of entry. So they can come on our property at any time and survey. My concerns is that most of our properties do not butt on any of the Scenic Hudson's properties. So from the past, like you've said, we've been through this before. What are Scenic Hudson's intentions for the homes in East Kingston? Are they going to put eminent domain on us? We're right in the middle between, now I found out that Plotkin property has been purchased by Scenic Hudson. So we're a little town of 100 homes in East Kingston. What's going to happen to us?
Scenic Hudson does not have the right of eminent domain. They are not a governmental agency.
Well, that's great to know. What about the right of entry to come on our properties?
I can't comment on that. The representative from the Palisades Park Authority is here. They were the ones that engaged Labella. Perhaps you can ask them to clarify the issue.
Well, Labella is really a subsidiary. They're just working and he really doesn't know that much.
They were a contractor to the Palisades Park, or
But they're working through the James Corner Field Operations. The main corporation is in the city of New York. Right. Okay, so what are the intentions of Scenic Hudson to come onto our properties in East Kingston? What are they going to do with us?
if I may explain,
Yes, please.
Mr. Brigham probably owned the entire hamlet of East Kingston at one time.
Yes.
Mr. Brigham went and engaged surveyors probably back in the 1880s to subdivide the various parcels by establishing property boundaries. In order to establish the boundary of the remaining Brigham property, which was recently purchased by Scenic Hudson, they have to go back to the original boundaries, which included all the land that the houses were built on when he went and subdivided them. As Mr. Humphreys explained, Labella was looking for a baseline, a static point that was established in the original survey prior to the subdivision. That is the baseline from which the current surveyors established the boundaries of the residual property. In other words, they establish the whole, they take out the various pieces, and then they verify what's left. That's why they crossed your property, because they were inspecting all the property points. There are 4 property points on your parcel that you own in East Kingston, 4 corners. That is defined in your deed. That was taken out of the master parcel that Mr. Brigham owned at one time. So I hope I've shed some light on why they need to survey, or at least tie back to the original property boundaries.
So we can be assured that they're not going to bother our homes. Is that true?
You would have to ask that question to the Palisades Park Authority, and I just saw him shake his head no. So I take that as
No intentions to do anything. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments here tonight for public comment? Ms. Hartman?
Please forgive us. My name is Laura Hartman, 44 Catskill Avenue. First, before I get started on my main mission here, I'd like to say thank you to Councilman Van Cleek and to our very efficient town clerk, Ms. Reevy, for sending out the notice about the planning or zoning board meeting. I forget which one it was this month, but you took up that issue with us last week and moved on it. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. So I'm here tonight to present to the town board a petition with 131 e-signatures. There are a few signatures from people from our surrounding communities, but mostly residents of our own town. They signed to support townofulstercitizen.org's initiative to request that you, our town board, pass a resolution to establish a Conservation Advisory Council, or CAC, to mitigate the ongoing negative effects of climate change. We all know this is an important and necessary step to do our part to make our community more resilient. Denning, Ellenville, Hardenburg, Town of Kingston, Lloyd, Plattekill, and the town of Ulster. We all have one thing in common. We are 7 communities of the 24 municipalities within Ulster County that do not have CACs, although it is worth noting that Plattekill is preparing to establish one. This is not a list we want to be on. In municipalities throughout New York, conservation advisory councils or conservation boards serve as important advisory bodies to local governing boards, planning boards, and zoning boards of appeals. By providing an environmental perspective on land use proposals, comprehensive plans, stewardship of natural areas, and other issues, CACs contribute to local land use decision-making, conservation, and quality of life for residents in a community. And since their mandate includes inventorying natural areas and open space in the municipality, they are uniquely positioned to provide the big picture view needed for natural resource-based planning. There are 2 parts of that statement from the New York State Hudson River Estuary Program that speak to me. The first is serve as important advisory bodies to local governing boards, planning boards, and zoning boards of appeals. The second is quality of life for residents in the community. CACs are intended and designed to give residents input into the development, management, and protection of natural resources. They are intended to have residents work together with their municipal government. This is what we are asking of our town board, to give us input into the development of the town of Ulster and to have a say in what happens to our precious natural resources, one of the elements of our communities that affects our quality of life in so many ways. We recently had presentations by RBW and iPark 87. Both companies have very, very impressive green goals. What does it say of us that our town does not support their initiatives? How can we ask them to be sustainable when we do not have a CAC and a public board that would highlight our own sustainable initiatives? Having a CAC would be a way to attract companies to Ulster that care about the environment and communities that would support and enhance their work. Our local neighbors that have CACs are doing really great work to protect their communities and have gone on to be climate smart communities. The city of Kingston has achieved silver status. The town of Hurley has just reached bronze status. These municipalities benefited financially by receiving grants to do this work. We here in the town of Ulster need to do our part as well, and we too could receive grants. A CAC can also serve as an educational source and plan a community Earth Day, work with the schools on projects that can help educate our young residents. Doing things like this will make our community stronger and bring people together. In 2022, we bore the brunt of 2 major weather events, storms the likes we've never seen before. The ice storm of February and the tornadoes in July. From the latter, my neighborhood was hit particularly hard. Every community needs to do all they can to help reverse these effects of carbon emissions. And we citizens are asking you, our town board, to give us a seat at the table and to let us be a part of the decisions that will affect our community for generations to come. I don't have children, but I do have 9 great nieces and nephews. And I know I want to do, I know that I want to, that I did my part to leave this planet in a better shape for them. So on behalf of the citizens of the town of Ulster, we are asking that the town board pass a resolution to create and establish a conservation advisory council and then implement it. We have had several people express interest in being part of a CAC, and we will share those names with you. This is obviously something I brought up before and feel really strongly about, and I hope that we can make some progress on this. There's a lot of people here tonight who support this motion that we take. So you have now the list of names of people that have already signed. We're going to keep that open and hopefully show you how much that the town residents care about this issue. I've also got a sample of a resolution to help you when you get to that point.
I already have the resolution
Good.
because I did my own research.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time and consideration.
We'll take it under advisement. Thank you for your efforts. Are there any other, Caitlin?
Kaylin Sanders, Town of Ulster, Socrates. I would like to thank actually Mr. Van Cleek for a very productive conversation off the record in terms of supporting the residents of Glenary Lake Park as we deal with what we consider a natural disaster in our front yard, which is the Central Hudson Project, and a natural disaster in our backyard, which is the Esopus Creek. So I support the Town of Ulster citizens' request that we pass a resolution for a CAC. But I'd just like to speak to my experience of 23 years of marketing local tourism, and that profit doesn't have to come at the profit and preservation are not mutually exclusive. And so I thank you for the tree legislation. I'm so interested in that to see what we can all do with that. But that is just a tiny, tiny piece of what needs to happen in this town. From a tourism perspective, we have a ton of lodging product in this town when you look at other towns as compared to us. And what happens is, that's great. We're bringing in the income in terms of the occupancy tax. It goes back into our town, but people leave because we don't necessarily have the green space. We can't compete with some of the other towns and the counties that are surrounding us in the Hudson Valley. So that means we need to really protect what we have right now. And once again, I think having a council of residents that are fully invested in this not only supporting hopefully the new workers coming in for some of these sustainable initiatives that you've already green-lighted, no pun intended. But I do think that it's only a win-win between getting grants for infrastructure projects, maintaining the level of tourism that we have, and potentially other new green projects that could come out of that are job and creators. And so I ask you to look at it from a different perspective from profit, because I do believe it's there. I think it just takes thinking out of the box, and I think we can get there. And I think there are a lot of people in this room that would support the resolution if passed.
Thank you. Ms. Bell? You did put your hand up. I've never known you to be shy.
Hey, again, I'm Cindy Bell. I live in Ruby. I am speaking this evening again in support of the formation of a conservation advisory council for the town of Ulster. Responsible of resource management means that we have an understanding of the value of trees for shade, to keep cool in summer, and to lower electric bills, as groundwater sponges to avoid flooding in our recreation areas, keeping the river and creeks within their boundaries, which also protects our property. If you don't know exactly what you have, you won't understand the problems that lack of trees and other natural resources can cause. When talking about resources, we must also include residential and commercial development, paved areas, roadways, and wildlife concerns. These groups, the CACs, are made of resident volunteers at no cost to taxpayers. Information is required for town government to be able to function optimally, and responsible governing means citizen trust that comes with confidence that all facts are being considered. Information and findings can be shared among residents as well, so they can be aware of what's happening in their neighborhoods and the possible issues they may face in the future, as well as the opportunity to communicate effectively with their elected officials. Think of it as a kind of checking account awareness, income versus expenditures. You'd want to know exactly what you have so you can manage your money well. Natural resources, especially in our suburban and rural areas, represent a solid investment for the town and its residents. It must be managed intelligently and responsibly. This isn't the 50s and 60s when population and understanding of natural resources were ignored to the detriment of all of us today. Most of the other communities in Ulster County already have a CAC. Let's join them. Thank you for the
your
opportunity.
comments. Are there any other individuals here, sir, in the front row?
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor. My name is Jonathan Ridgway. I live at 220 Windsor Drive, Hurley, town of Ulster. I would like to associate myself with the comments that Ms. Hartman made about the establishment of a conservation advisory committee, that I'm particularly attracted to the ideas of being able to make improvements in quality of life for the people of our community at the advantage of paying for them with grants, other people's money. We don't have to take money out of our own pocket to make life better. And I strongly urge the town to establish such a conservation advisory committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway.
Peace be with you.
Mr. Thing?
Lowell Thing. I live at 188 Ledge Road in the town of Ulster. And I'm also requesting that the town board create and appoint a conservation advisory board. I happen to live in the neighborhood called Fox Run. And a big reason we moved there is because when the neighborhood was developed, the developer left a lot of natural terrain as it was, including many large trees. I asked myself, should developers, residential or commercial, consider the impact of retaining existing trees? At least some of them. Is there an alternative to clear cutting? I'm not an urban planner, but I do recall that some other places have what are called green belts, or at least they have designated areas or policies that encourage conservation. And I think given the ability of trees to suck up carbon dioxide and the beneficial visual impact, I think we want to keep as many trees as we can, even plant more. I once served on a landmarks commission, and I've attended many planning board meetings in Kingston, not the town of Ulster. And I observed that very often the only people in the room, other than the board itself, was the applicant for something. Supposedly the board itself was there to represent the public interest. But it was easy to forget because there were no other set of eyes looking at you but the applicant. The focus was on what was being presented. I think it would be very helpful in many cases for such a board to have, whether they were in the room or not, the point of view of someone speaking for the trees and other aspects of the environment. So I'm guessing that appointing a conservation advisory board was just something that got lost, but I'm hoping that now the board will think about appointing one. Thank you.
For the matter of full disclosure, Mr. Thing and I were neighbors 60 years ago, almost 50 some years ago.
Yeah, about 60.
Thank you. In the back.
My name is Wayne Spanier. I live at 9-5 Lakeview Avenue. I'm here also to speak in favor of the town of Ulster participating in the Conservation Advisory Council. The CAC provides the big picture view of our town's resources and assets, as well as our liabilities and vulnerabilities. It's an opportunity to join forces with other towns to share experience and wisdom and be part of exciting programs coming forward. Our community has many qualified and passionate, willing citizens who would love to take an active role in this process. It's an opportunity for them to learn, contribute, and deepen their commitment to the place they call home. Why not invite them in, and in the process, invite the community into the workings of the town of Ulster? Rather than an attitude of thanks, but no thanks, I can take care of it. How about a bit of let's work together, share the process? We're one of just 7 towns who have not yet joined with the 17 towns participating in this program. Those who have joined are eligible for grants and help that we are not. Why should we miss out on this? There are plenty of issues that come up where we find ourselves on opposite sides in an adversarial stance. On this one, I don't really understand why we can't work together for the betterment of our community and the world. Clean air, water, and land, protection of open spaces never used to be a partisan issue. We all have chosen to live here and owe it to ourselves and our kids to leave them something sustainable and healthy. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Berardi?
Good evening. My name is Mike Berardi. I live on Ulster Landing Road, and I am a taxpayer. And I want to speak in support of a Conservation Advisory Committee. I can't say anything more than what has already been sent prior to me very eloquently. And I think we can all move forward together. I think it's time we raise our game. And I think there's many people who want to be involved. So I think it's a great idea, and I believe the town board will make the proper decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Mr. Dean?
My name is Stuart Dean, and I live on Ulster Landing Road, just above Ryder Park. I just very simply and directly, I want to affirm my support for the creation of a Conservation Advisory Board. I was involved in the Police Reimagining Recreation Committee, and I think our input helped in that effort and provided real progress and financing there. I think we need something similar, but with a longer term and more foresight here. That's all. Thank you.
Are there any other individuals here with comments? Ladies and gentlemen, at the last meeting, which I did not attend, a question was asked about the status of the Glide Path project. In July of 2022, I sent an email to the Glide Path company asking them for an update. They sent me a reply that said they'd call me within 2 weeks. That has not occurred. I then called NYSERDA, the New York State organization, which has granted them a grant for the construction of the project. NYSERDA informed me that they have not had communications with Glide Path recently, but from their point of view, the grant was intact. I then called Central Hudson, who informed me that to their knowledge, the project is not going forward because the applicant, Glide Path, had not met the terms and conditions of their interconnect agreement with Central Hudson. That being said, the planning board approvals, which had been extended several times at their request, expired in November of 2022 without any contact from the attorneys for Glide Path. All the individuals that we had worked with on the project no longer work for Glide Path. So my report to you is we don't know anything more than what I've just stated. They have not returned our phone calls. They have not informed us of their intentions. And furthermore, I had always believed that the more appropriate location for a battery storage facility was on the iPark campus. But I was afraid that Glide Path would never get to an agreement with Allen Ginsberg, the prior owner of Tech City. Subsequent to Mr. Cotter's purchase of the iPark campus, I sat down with him and completely reviewed the glide path proposal. And he informed me that both Cadenza and Zinc 8, which were the two battery manufacturers, would be interested in putting a battery storage facility at iPark, as well as the developer who is currently involved in putting a battery storage facility in East Fishkill at the iPark campus down there. So we are waiting for Mr. Cotter to come forward with a proposal for a battery storage facility at the iPark campus. There are substantial economic advantages to locating it at that location, as they will not have to incur $7 million worth of power line construction to reach from Frank Satile Drive all the way down to the Lincoln Park substation. I believe at some point in the next year or two, we will be hearing from a battery storage developer for a project at the iPark campus. And the Lincoln Park substation is only big enough for one. So the first battery plant in place, or the first battery plant that comes forward with a plan that can move forward, will be the winner. So with that, I have nothing else to say for tonight. Any other comments from the town board? Any responses to any questions that have been previously asked? With that, I ask for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you very much, and we will see you at the town board meeting on May 18th.